The evening in Munich felt almost magical, as if the whole city had been waiting for this single moment. The sky had slowly turned from gold to deep blue, and the lights of the Olympic Stadium glowed like stars on the ground. People from different places, different ages, and different languages filled the seats, all with the same excitement in their hearts. They were there for one person: Michael Jackson. The atmosphere held a special kind of electricity, the kind that only appears before something big and unforgettable is about to happen. Inside the stadium, more than 70,000 people waited with shining eyes. Some held banners with Michael's name written in bright colors. Others wore his signature hat or gloves. Many had been standing for hours. But no one seemed tired. The energy around them kept their spirits high. Conversations blended with laughter, and smiles spread from one person to another like fireworks of joy. The entire stadium almost felt like a giant family brought together by music. Backstage, Michael prepared quietly. He was known around the world for his great talent, but in moments like this, he liked silence. He preferred to gather his thoughts and center himself before stepping into the light. A team of dancers, musicians, and crew members moved efficiently around him, checking every detail one last time. Michael stayed calm, breathing slowly, almost rhythmically. He believed every show was not just a performance, it was a gift he offered to his audience. And he always wanted it to be perfect. The Munich concert was one of the biggest nights of his history tour, and he knew the crowd outside was full of love and anticipation. Even from backstage, he could hear the distant roar of fans chanting his name. It wasn't just noise, it was passion, devotion, and admiration mixed into one powerful sound. Michael placed a hand over his chest for a brief moment, grounding himself. He never took this love for granted. As the minutes passed, the excitement in the stadium grew stronger. The stage lights dimmed slowly, sending ripples of whispers across the audience. A soft hush fell over the crowd, followed by waves of shouting and applause. The energy moved like a living thing, rising and falling, building itself into something almost too strong to hold inside. Suddenly, a deep sound echoed one single, strong beat that made everyone gasp. Then another. The opening rhythm of Billie Jean, one of Michael's most iconic songs, had begun. The audience erupted. Thousands of hands reached toward the sky, waving wildly. People jumped in place, some laughing, some crying, unable to hold their emotions. The spotlight shot across the stage and stopped at the center. Smoke drifted up like mist, covering the platform with a soft glow. And then, as if appearing out of thin air, Michael Jackson stood there. His figure was tall and confident, dressed in a shining outfit that caught the light in the most beautiful way. The stadium exploded in cheers so loud they seemed to shake the ground. For a moment, Michael didn't move. He simply stood still, allowing the crowd to feel his presence. He understood the power of silence. He understood how to build anticipation better than anyone else. The fans shouted, clapped, and screamed, some unable to believe they were seeing him right in front of their eyes. Cameras flashed from every direction, like tiny stars sparkling in the night. Michael slowly raised his head, the brim of his hat lifting just enough to reveal his eyes. The crowd roared even louder. This was the moment they had been waiting for. The beat of Billie Jean continued, smooth and steady. Michael's foot slid across the floor, with a sharp, clean movement that sent a wave of excitement through the entire stadium. He hadn't even begun the full routine yet, but the magic had already started. Every step, every pause, every small gesture he made was full of purpose. He moved with confidence but also with ease, as if music lived inside him and guided his body naturally. The audience felt this connection. They could see that Michael didn't just dance to the rhythm. He became part of it. And in that moment, everyone watching felt like they were part of something much bigger than a concert. People in the front row leaned forward, hardly blinking, trying not to miss a single second. A woman near the stage placed a hand over her mouth. surprised by how emotional she felt. A young boy on his father's shoulders watched with wide eyes, too amazed to speak. Even those far in the upper seats could feel the energy, as clear as if they were standing right on the stage. Michael's soft, smooth voice filled the air as he began singing. The words of Billie Jean floated across the stadium, carried by powerful speakers. But even without the speakers, his emotion would have reached the back rows. He had a way of making a huge crowd feel small, intimate, as if he was singing to each person individually. The audience responded with cheers and echoing lines of the chorus, their voices blending beautifully with his. As the performance continued, the stage lights shifted and danced around him, adding color and dimension to every move he made. The golden lights framed him like a star shining from the center of the night. Every now and then, fireworks sparked behind him, creating a breathtaking display that added even more magic to the experience. Michael glided from one side of the stage to the other with grace, giving attention to every section of the audience. Fans waved, shouted his name, and held out their hands, hoping for even the smallest acknowledgement. Michael would smile gently or send a quick gesture, acknowledging them in a warm, respectful way. He valued his supporters deeply, and it showed in the way he connected with them. The band behind him played with passion, following his pace perfectly. The dancers waited for their cues, moving like shadows, ready to burst into motion. Everything was synchronized, polished, and full of life. But even with all that happening, Michael remained the center of attention effortlessly. His talent, his presence, and the emotion he carried made it impossible to look away. As the song reached its middle section, the excitement in the stadium reached a new peak. People were fully absorbed in the moment. Some danced along. Some cried from the overwhelming beauty of the performance. Others simply watched in complete admiration, their hearts full. It didn't matter who they were or where they came from. Michael's music touched them all. The night sky above the stadium glittered softly, adding a peaceful contrast to the high-energy performance below. It was a perfect balance, the calm of the sky and the fire of the music. And in that moment, it seemed as though even the stars were watching quietly, enjoying the show. The atmosphere was powerful, yet warm, exciting, yet comforting. The energy was bright, yet emotional. It was everything a live performance should be. And Michael Jackson, standing confidently under the lights, held the entire stadium in the palm of his hand, not through force, not through shock, but through pure artistry and genuine connection. The story of that night, the beauty of the performance, and the heart of the moment would stay with the audience for years. None of them knew yet that the most unforgettable moment of the evening was still waiting to happen. But for now, they were lost in the magic of Billie Jean, and in the presence of a legend who gave his whole heart to his craft. The music continued to flow smoothly through the stadium, and Michael moved across the stage with the same effortless grace that had made him famous all over the world. The rhythm of Billie Jean echoed through every corner of the arena, making people dance in their seats and clap their hands in perfect time. The bright lights moved around him, creating shapes and patterns that added even more beauty to the performance. For the audience, everything felt almost dreamlike. But while the majority of the crowd focused completely on Michael's dance steps and the music, a different kind of energy was building near one of the lower corners of the stadium. In that section, a young fan stood pressed against the railing, staring at the stage with wide, emotional eyes. He had traveled a long distance to be there, saving money for months just to see Michael Jackson in person. This moment meant more to him than anything else in the world. From where he stood, he could see the stage clearly, but something inside him felt restless. It was a feeling that had been growing ever since the concert began. The more Michael danced, the stronger the feeling became. It was not a wild or harmful intention, just a deep, overwhelming desire to get closer to the person he admired most. His heart raced with excitement, and he found himself stepping forward without even realizing it. As Michael performed, his signature spins and footwork, the fans' eyes followed every movement. He felt as if Michael's music was calling him, pulling him closer like a quiet whisper he couldn't ignore. Around him, other people were cheering loudly, completely lost in the performance. No one noticed the small emotional storm happening inside the young fan's heart. Near the railing, a narrow gap separated the audience from the path that led to the stage. Security guards were posted along the edges, watching the crowd carefully. Their job was to keep everyone safe while allowing the audience to enjoy the show. They weren't expecting anything unusual, and for most of the night, everything had been calm. But then the fan took a deep breath, placed one hand on the railing, and in a single, quick motion, climbed over it. For a moment, it seemed like the world slowed down. The people near him gasped softly, unsure of what he was doing. But before anyone could react fully, he landed safely on the other side and started running toward the stage. The path wasn't long, but to the fan, it felt like he was running through a dream. His heart pounded fast, not out of fear, but excitement. He wasn't thinking about the security guards, the rules, or the thousands of eyes watching him. In his mind, there was only one thought. He wanted to reach Michael. A wave of surprised reactions moved through the audience as people realized what was happening. Some pointed toward the stage. Others covered their mouths in shock. The stadium, which had been filled with music and cheers, gained a new layer of emotion, curiosity, surprise, and a bit of confusion. The security guards noticed the fan almost instantly. They began moving quickly, rushing toward the path he had taken. But the fan had gained a few seconds' advantage, and he used it to run faster. His legs moved with determination, fueled by the dream he had admired since childhood. On the stage, Michael continued dancing, unaware at first of the commotion approaching from the side. The lights focused on him, illuminating him like the center of a star. He performed another smooth step, followed by a gentle glide forward. His body flowed with the rhythm, completely in harmony with the music. But then, from the corner of his eye, he noticed movement, something unusual, something unexpected. He turned slightly, and for the first time, he saw the fan approaching him. The fan's face was full of emotion, joy, disbelief, and deep admiration all mixed together in a single expression. Michael paused for a brief second, his mind processing the moment. The audience gasped loudly, producing a sound that spread through the stadium like a wave. The huge screens around the stage showed the scene clearer, making everyone aware of what was happening. Some fans placed hands over their hearts, worried about how Michael might react. Others watched with wide eyes, unsure whether they should be anxious or excited. The fan raced up the steps leading to the stage platform. His movements were clumsy, but full of passion. He had no intention to disturb or frighten Michael. He only wanted to be close to him, to feel even a single second of connection with the person who had inspired him so deeply. His admiration was overflowing, and he had no idea how powerful his emotions appeared from the outside. Security guards reached the staircase just seconds after the fan made it up the final step. They climbed quickly, trying to catch up, but by the time they reached the top, the fan had already stepped onto the main stage, only a few feet away from Michael Jackson. Michael stood facing him, calm and still. The music continued to play behind them, filling the stadium with its steady rhythm. Michael didn't step back or appear frightened. Instead, he watched the fan with a soft look of curiosity, as if he could feel the sincerity of the moment. The fan slowed down. His steps became gentle, almost shaky. When he finally reached Michael, he didn't shout, didn't grab him, didn't do anything aggressive. He simply held out his arms, tears shining in his eyes, overwhelmed by the fact that he was standing face to face with his biggest inspiration. This next moment felt unreal to everyone watching. More than 70,000 people held their breath as they witnessed something completely unexpected and deeply human. It wasn't a planned part of the show. It wasn't a staged performance. It was a genuine moment, pure emotion standing in front of pure artistry. Security guards reached the edge of the stage, ready to step in, but they didn't move forward yet. They watched Michael, waiting for his signal, unsure of how he wanted to handle the situation. The stadium was silent, except for the music that continued to play softly in the background. Michael kept his eyes on the fan. He could see the emotion written all over the young man's face. Admiration, gratitude, and overwhelming joy. It wasn't a dangerous situation. It was simply a heartfelt moment created by someone who loved him deeply. Instead of reacting with fear or frustration, Michael took a small step forward. The audience watched closely, unsure of what he would do next. The fan's tears fell freely now, his hands trembling with emotion. What happened in the next few seconds would soon become one of the most unforgettable moments of the entire tour. For a moment, time inside the stadium seemed to slow down. The giant screens showed the fan standing only a few steps away from Michael Jackson. His face full of emotion, his hands slightly shaking. The music of Billie Jean continued softly in the background, but it felt almost distant now, like a gentle heartbeat behind the tension of the moment. More than 70,000 people watched silently, unsure of what would happen next. Michael stood calm and steady, his posture relaxed but attentive. He had performed in front of millions of people throughout his life, but each concert was different, each moment unique. And this moment, with a young fan trembling in front of him, carried a feeling that reached deep into his heart. He could see the sincerity shining in the fan's eyes. It wasn't fear or chaos. It was pure admiration, simple, honest, and overflowing. The fan tried to speak, but no sound came out. His throat felt tight from the strong emotions inside him. He pressed a hand to his chest, as if trying to steady his racing heartbeat. When he looked up at Michael again, tears slipped down his cheeks, and his lips trembled. He wasn't trying to be dramatic or draw attention to himself. His emotions were simply too strong to hide. Michael took a slow, gentle step forward. The audience reacted with a soft wave of gasps. Unsure if the moment was about to end or take a new direction, the security guards watched closely, but they stayed still, waiting for Michael to guide them. Michael never liked harshness. He always believed in kindness and understanding, even in unexpected situations. When Michael reached the fan, he raised his hand slowly and placed it gently on the young man's shoulder. It was a simple, calm gesture, but it carried more warmth than any words could. The fan let out a shaky breath, overwhelmed by the gentle touch. His knees threatened to give way from the emotion, but Michael's hand kept him steady. In that single moment, something changed in the stadium. The tension softened, the worry faded, and the atmosphere grew warmer and more emotional. People in the audience began to feel a sting behind their eyes. They weren't just watching a performer and a fan. They were witnessing two human beings sharing a sincere connection. The fan finally managed to say a few words, though they were quiet and broken with tears. He expressed how much Michael's music had guided him through difficult moments of life, how it made him feel seen, understood, and hopeful. Michael listened with calm eyes, nodding gently, showing that he heard and appreciated every word. Without saying anything, Michael placed his arms softly around the fan's shoulders. The audience erupted with gentle applause and soft emotional cheers. It wasn't wild or chaotic. It was warm and full of love. People were touched by the kindness they were witnessing. Many had never seen a superstar handle such a moment with so much calmness and heart. Michael slowly guided the fan a little toward the center of the stage, allowing him to stand beside him. The fan was crying openly now, unable to hold back the flow of emotions. But instead of feeling embarrassed, he felt safe. Michael's presence had a calming effect, like a quiet reassurance that everything was okay. The music continued in the background, and Michael gently swayed to the rhythm, encouraging the fan to join him. At first, the fan stood stiffly, not sure what to do. But Michael placed a hand on his back and nodded softly, encouraging him without pressure. Slowly, the fan began to sway along with him. The crowd watched with full hearts. Many people covered their mouths, their eyes filled with tears. Others hugged the person next to them, overwhelmed by the beauty of the moment. It was rare to see such genuine compassion on such a large stage, especially from an artist of Michael's level. But Michael had always believed that love and kindness were more important than anything else. As they swayed gently together, Michael looked out at the crowd with soft eyes. He didn't smile widely or wave dramatically. He simply held the fan close and allowed the moment to speak for itself. This was his way of saying that everyone mattered, that every fan, no matter who they were, deserved kindness and respect. A few seconds later, the fan grew emotional again. His breath came in small gasps, and he covered his face with his hands. Michael responded by placing both hands on the fan's shoulders, steadying him gently. The fan lowered his hands, tears still flowing, but he managed a small smile through them. He couldn't believe that his idol, the person he admired most in the world, was treating him with so much care. Even the security guards softened their expressions. They had expected to remove the fan quickly, but now they stood quietly, respecting Michael's way of handling the situation. They could see that the fan meant no harm, and that this moment meant everything to him. Michael signaled to the band with a small nod, and they softened the music even more, allowing the emotional moment to shine. The stadium grew quieter, the lights dimmed slightly, and the scene became almost like a gentle painting, two figures standing together in the middle of a giant stage, surrounded by thousands of glowing faces. The fan finally looked up at Michael again, his expression full of gratitude. He gently leaned into Michael, not forcefully, but with the quiet trust of someone who felt safe and understood. Michael placed a hand on the fan's back, offering silent comfort. The audience watched with warm hearts, their eyes glistening in the dimmed lights. Then Michael turned slightly toward the security guards and gave them a small, soft gesture, nothing dramatic, just a simple motion that said they could come forward now, calmly and gently. He didn't push the fan away. Instead, he squeezed his shoulder lightly, as if reassuring him that everything was okay and that he was not in trouble. When the security guards approached, they didn't grab the fan or pull him harshly. They moved slowly, respectfully, following Michael's example. The fan looked at Michael one last time, his face full of emotion. Michael returned the look with a soft, reassuring nod, a silent message that would stay in the fan's heart forever. The fan allowed the guards to guide him off the stage. Even as he walked away, he kept looking back, as if trying to hold on to the beautiful moment a little longer. The crowd applauded gently, showing respect and support rather than fear or judgment. Michael watched the fan until he disappeared safely backstage. For a moment, he stood quietly, letting the emotions settle in his own heart. He knew that what had just happened would stay with the fan for a lifetime. And it would stay with him too. As the fan left the stage, a sense of peace spread through the stadium. The audience felt more connected to Michael than ever before. They weren't just fans watching a superstar, they were people sharing a moment of pure humanity with him. Michael turned back toward the center of the stage. The lights brightened slowly. The music grew stronger, and the show continued. But something in the air had changed. The connection between Michael and the audience felt deeper, warmer, and more meaningful than before. What happened next in the concert would make the night even more emotional. But the kindness Michael showed in this moment would forever remain one of the most beautiful memories of that unforgettable evening. The music slowly returned to its full strength as the fan was gently guided backstage, but the emotion of the moment still hung in the air like a soft glow. People in the crowd wiped their eyes, some with tissues, others with their sleeves. Many exchanged looks with the people around them, not needing words to express what they were feeling. Everyone knew they had just witnessed something special, something that didn't happen at every concert, something that felt personal, real, and unforgettable. Michael stood in the center of the stage again, but there was a different kind of energy around him now. His breath was calm, his posture relaxed, and his face carried a soft expression that showed he was moved by the moment just as much as the audience. He took a few seconds to breathe, his eyes scanning the stadium as if to reassure everyone that he was fine and that the show would continue with the same heart and passion. Then, slowly, he lifted his hat slightly, giving the crowd a small nod. That simple gesture sent a wave of warmth across the entire stadium. People cheered softly, but the cheers were filled with emotion rather than excitement. They weren't shouting for the performance, now they were shouting for the kindness they had just witnessed. The beat of Billie Jean picked up again. Soft but steady, like a pulse. Michael adjusted his hat, straightened his shoulders, and took his position. But before continuing, he placed one hand gently on his heart and extended the other toward the audience. It wasn't a rehearsed move. It came from a genuine place. The crowd understood it instantly. It was his quiet way of thanking them for their understanding and for the love they had shown. As the music grew stronger, Michael began moving again, but his steps held a deeper emotion now. It was as if the moment with the fan had opened a door inside him, allowing even more warmth to flow through his performance. Every step, every glide, every turn carried an extra layer of feeling. He wasn't just dancing. He was sharing a piece of his heart with everyone watching. People in the audience found themselves even more connected to him than before. They watched with bright eyes, afraid to blink and miss even a single second. The screens showed Michael's face clearly focused, but soft, professional, yet full of gentle emotion. It was a rare combination that made the moment even more powerful. As he continued, something beautiful happened. Instead of breaking the flow of the show, the emotional interruption seemed to lift it to an even higher level. The atmosphere became warmer, more meaningful, almost magical. It was no longer just a concert. It felt like a gathering of souls, all united by the same love for music, connection, and kindness. Then came the moment that touched the entire stadium all at once. Michael stepped forward with a slow, graceful motion. The stage lights formed a soft circle around him, making him stand out gently from the background. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes for a second, and then began a slow sway to the music. It wasn't part of the original choreography. It wasn't flashy or showy. It was simple, heartfelt, and honest. The crowd didn't cheer loudly. Instead, a quiet awe spread across the audience. You could feel the emotion rising like a soft tide. People felt something deep and warm in their hearts, something almost indescribable. Michael continued to sway, and as he did, the memory of the fan standing beside him a few minutes earlier lingered in the air. It was as if Michael was finishing the emotional dance they started together, letting the moment live on for everyone to feel. The music played gently behind him, guiding each movement. Some people in the audience began to cry again, not from sadness but from the overwhelming beauty of the moment. It felt pure and comforting, like watching a deeply human connection unfold on an enormous stage. Even those who weren't usually emotional found themselves blinking back tears. Michael opened his eyes and looked at the audience again. His gaze moved slowly across the stadium, as though he wanted to connect with every single person in the crowd. The lights reflected softly in his eyes, giving them a gentle, glowing look. He didn't speak, but his expression said everything: kindness, gratitude, and a quiet understanding of the emotions everyone was feeling. The camera zoomed in on him, and the giant screens displayed his face to the entire stadium. People saw the calmness in his eyes, the softness in his smile, and the quiet strength in his expression. In that moment, he looked less like a world-famous superstar and more like a humble man sharing a moment with the people who loved him. Then Michael did something simple but incredibly touching. He placed one hand over his heart again, softly, as if holding the emotion there for a second. The audience reacted at once. A wave of warm applause spread across the stadium. It wasn't loud or wild. It was gentle, full of love, like a soft embrace from thousands of people at once. Michael nodded slightly, acknowledging the emotion in the air, and then he slowly raised his arm and pointed it to the sky. It wasn't dramatic. It was peaceful, like sending the kindness of the moment upward for the world to feel. The audience, moved by the simplicity of the gesture, followed with their own quiet cheers and applause. Many lifted their hands in the air too, matching Michael's gesture. It created a beautiful sight, thousands of hands reaching upward, all glowing under the stadium lights. The song reached the part where Michael typically performed one of his most iconic moves. The audience waited, expecting him to continue with the usual energy and precision. But instead of rushing into the dance, Michael paused again. The pause wasn't awkward. It was intentional, calm, thoughtful, and full of meaning. He took a step back, breathed deeply, and let the emotion guide him. When he finally moved, the movement was smoother, gentler, and more heartfelt than ever. It wasn't just a dance step, it was a message of compassion, connection, and understanding. The audience responded instantly. They didn't erupt in loud cheers this time. Instead, a wave of soft, emotional sounds filled the air: gasps, light applause, and quiet cries. People felt moved, touched in a way they hadn't expected. One person in the front row pressed a hand over her heart. Another wiped tears from his eyes. A young child held onto his parent's arm, not fully understanding why everyone looked emotional, but feeling the warmth of the moment anyway. Even the dancers standing at the far side of the stage watched with soft expressions. They had seen Michael perform countless times, but this moment felt different. Even to them, they could feel the emotion radiating from him, and it made the performance shine in a different light, more honest, more vulnerable, more human. As the song neared its final section, Michael stepped forward into the center of the platform. The lights behind him softened into a gentle glow. His movements were slow and smooth, full of grace. He ended the song not with a dramatic finish, but with a soft, peaceful pose. The entire stadium erupted not with shouts, but with emotional applause. People clapped through tears, their hearts full. Many waved their hands slowly in the air, creating a sea of moving lights from phones and glowing bracelets. The moment felt like a warm embrace, shared by tens of thousands of people at once. Michael held his final pose, breathing softly. Then he lowered his hand from his heart and gave one last gentle nod to the audience. It was small, but meaningful. In that moment, everyone understood why they loved him so deeply, not only for his talent, but for the kindness in his spirit. The night was far from over, but this moment would become the one people remembered most. The moment that made more than 70,000 hearts feel connected, moved, and completely full. The soft glow of the stage lights slowly faded into a warm golden color as the final notes of Billie Jean drifted through the stadium. Michael stood quietly for a moment, letting the sound settle into the air like a gentle breeze. His expression was peaceful, touched with a hint of gratitude. The audience, still emotional from everything they had witnessed, continued clapping softly. Some people had tears on their faces, but their smiles showed how deeply the moment had touched them. The fans' unexpected appearance on stage had changed the entire energy of the night. Instead of creating confusion, it had created a moment of kindness that spread throughout the stadium like a soft wave of warmth. People felt connected to Michael not just as a performer, but as a human being with a gentle heart. As the applause slowly softened, Michael lifted his eyes toward the audience again. His gaze moved across the stadium in slow motion, almost as if he wanted to memorize every face, every light, every emotion. The tens of thousands of people watching him felt a quiet closeness, something rare and beautiful, something that would stay in their memories for years. Michael took a slow step forward, and the lights brightened around him. The crowd let out a soft cheer, like a warm breeze passing through the stadium. He placed his hand over his heart in a gentle gesture that made the audience react immediately. People clapped. Some lightly, some emotionally. It wasn't the loud, wild applause he usually received. It was deeper, filled with affection and understanding. The band began to play the introduction for the next part of the show, but even then, the emotional moment lingered in the air. Michael adjusted his microphone, his movements calm and collected. He started the next song with grace. But even as he sang and danced, everyone could feel the shift that had happened. The atmosphere had become softer, more meaningful. It felt as if Michael was performing not just a show, but a message, one of love, connection, and kindness. People in the audience leaned on each other, shared smiles, wiped tears, and whispered about the incredible moment they had just witnessed. Nobody talked in a loud way. Instead, they spoke in gentle voices, as if they were still inside a delicate memory they didn't want to break. Everyone knew they were part of something special. Meanwhile, backstage, the fan who had approached Michael earlier sat on a small bench, still overwhelmed. A staff member brought him water, and a security guard stood nearby, not with a harsh expression but with a soft, almost amused smile. The fan kept pressing his hand over his mouth, trying to stop the tears from returning. His heart was still racing from the experience, but now it was a warm, steady rhythm, full of joy, not fear. One of the crew members approached him kindly, asking if he felt okay. The fan nodded slowly, unable to find the right words. He wasn't upset, he wasn't confused. He was simply overwhelmed in the most beautiful way. He replayed the moment again and again. In his mind, Michael's gentle touch on his shoulder, the supportive arm around him, the soft nod full of reassurance. It didn't feel real, but at the same time, it felt like the most real moment of his entire life. Back on stage, Michael continued giving his energy, his talent, and his heart to the performance. But something about him seemed different now. His movements looked smoother, his voice carried extra emotion, and his expressions felt deeper. It was as if the moment with the fan had opened a window inside him, allowing him to perform with an even stronger sense of connection. The audience could feel it too. Each song seemed more powerful, more colorful, more heartfelt. People waved their hands in the air, swayed gently to the music, and sang along with full voices. Even those who didn't know the lyrics tried to follow, letting the sound carry them. The stadium felt unified, almost like one giant family sharing the same heartbeat. As the concert reached its final songs, the atmosphere grew even stronger. The lights danced across the stadium, like stars swirling around the stage. The crowd clapped, sang, cheered, and moved their glowing bracelets and lights in gentle waves that looked like an ocean of sparkling colors. Michael stood in front of them, absorbing the beauty for a few seconds. The connection between him and the crowd was warm and full of affection. He couldn't help but smile softly. He raised both hands in the air and let them fall slowly in a graceful motion. And the entire audience responded as if they were following him in a dance. It was a simple exchange, but it carried a deep meaning. When the show finally reached the last performance of the night, the stage lights softened again. Michael stepped forward into the warm glow, looking peaceful and reflective. The final song carried gentle, emotional notes soft enough for people to breathe deeply and remember the magic of the night. With every word he sang, people felt the emotion behind it. They felt the gratitude, the appreciation, and the sincerity. Michael was known for his incredible skill, but in this moment, people admired something even greater: his heart. When the final note ended, he stood still for a moment, soaking in the applause. The stadium lit up with thousands of lights as people raised their phones and glow sticks, creating a beautiful sea of colors that touched the night sky. Michael looked at it with awe, as if the sight itself was a gift from the audience to him. He bowed gently, placed his hand over his heart one last time, and blew a soft kiss toward the sky and the audience. The crowd responded with cheers that were filled with love rather than noise. They knew they had shared something unforgettable with him. Slowly, he backed away from the spotlight, still smiling softly. The lights dimmed as he disappeared backstage, leaving behind a stadium full of warm hearts and shining faces. In the following days, videos of the emotional moment spread everywhere. People from different countries watched the clip of the fan running onto the stage and Michael's gentle reaction. Many viewers were left in tears. Others felt inspired. Some wrote messages about how kindness can change lives. The moment became more than just a clip, it became a story people shared with their friends, families, and even strangers. Fans talked about how Michael didn't react with fear or anger. Instead, he responded with understanding, patience, and compassion. It became a powerful reminder of the simple truth that kindness can touch hearts more deeply than anything else. The young fan who had run onto the stage found himself suddenly receiving messages from people around the world. Many thanked him for being brave enough to express his admiration. Others said his emotional moment helped them understand Michael's gentle nature more clearly. He replied to a few messages, always with the same humble feeling he never expected the moment to become so meaningful. But what stayed with him the most wasn't the attention from others. It was the memory of the quiet gesture Michael had given him. The supportive arm, the gentle hand on his shoulder, the soft nod that said, "You're okay." Years later, whenever people talked about the Munich concert, they didn't only talk about the dancing, the songs, or the massive crowd. They talked about the moment when a fan stood on stage crying, and Michael Jackson embraced him with kindness instead of pushing him away. They talked about how that single moment made more than 70,000 people cry, not from sadness, but from love. And in the end, that moment became one of the most beautiful parts of Michael's legacy, proof that even in a world full of noise, a single act of kindness could echo louder than anything else.